The Social Network, Part 2. We last left off with the introduction of Sean Parker, the founder of Napster, played by Justin Timberlake. By the way, I think this is a brilliant bit of casting, because Timberlake, in real life, was signed to a record label that probably did sue Napster, and now he's playing the Napster guy. Anyway, we're introduced to him in a scene where he says,
"There's a snake in here, Amy." What?
You see, he was just trying to get her attention. There was no snake. Or was there? I think he's the snake. Parker ends up driving two friends apart. Then his actions end up creating bad PR for the friend he does side with. Plus, the dialogue in this film has numerous references to animals.
When you go fishing, you can catch a lot of fish, or you can catch a big fish. You ever walk into a guy's den and see a picture of him standing next to 14 trout?
No, he's holding a 3,000-pound marlin.
Yep.
And the dining hall was serving chicken for dinner, so I had to feed my chicken. So I took little pieces of chicken and I gave it to the chicken.
These references seem to be about dominance, a nod to the food chains that exist in the animal kingdom. The effect Parker has on Zuckerberg is what I would call seductive. You know, platonically. Parker almost exclusively talks about who has gotten the better of whom. In the club, he tells Zuckerberg the real-life story of Roy Raymond, the founder of Victoria's Secret, who sold his company early and found himself in such despair that he ended up jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. Zuckerberg even says,
Was that a parable?
In a way, yes. Never take your foot off the gas with Facebook. Either follow Sean Parker or end up like Roy Raymond. Throughout the story, Mark Zuckerberg either thinks other people aren't worthy of his attention or that others can't keep up with what he's saying.
Maybe it's just sometimes you say two things at once, I'm not sure which one I'm supposed to be aiming at.
But with Sean Parker, he's all ears. They're on the same wavelength. I think Zuckerberg responds to, even aspires to, the way Parker puts his enemies in their place, in court and in business. It's a sign of things to come. I want to break away and talk about the form of this film. Sure, the content is classic, with themes of ambition, betrayal, unrequited love, and animal metaphors, but the form is all modern. The camera cuts often, especially for a drama. But this is perfect, because as shown by the first two scenes especially, Zuckerberg thinks fast. He talks fast. This directorial technique helps us get inside his head, not just the camera work, but the musical score. The hacking scene is set to a pulsating, up-tempo electronic track.
Let the hacking begin.
Other tracks carry heavy, menacing synths, which usually play when things are going Zuckerberg's way. Then there's a piano-led track that plays at the beginning and end. Both moments are when there's a falling out between Zuckerberg and someone he's known for a while. There's a type of character you can find in certain stories called a foil. When the protagonist is getting carried away with hurting other people, this foil steps in and tells them what they've done wrong in an attempt to influence a change of heart. We can find a foil in Social Network writer Aaron Sorkin's other movie, Steve Jobs, in the form of Apple executive John Scully, played by Jeff Daniels. I'll link the rest of this clip down below, but Steve Jobs is filled with scenes like this, such as ones featuring Steve Wozniak, played by Seth Rogen. Scenes where someone who Jobs has allegedly stepped on tells him off in a one-on-one argument as the musical score rises with their words. And sure, Jobs gets to stand up for himself and fire back, but because of the film's direction, the aforementioned swelling of the score, the reaction shots, the pauses in the dialogue, I always got the sense that the movie is trying to nudge me toward thinking that Jobs is ultimately in the wrong because of his relentless ego and what it does to the people around him. David Fincher once said this, The thing I always say to any writer that I'm working with is just make sure that in any argument, everyone is right. I want every single person arguing a righteous side of the argument. That makes interesting drama. David Fincher did not direct the Sorkin-written Steve Jobs, but he did work with Sorkin for The Social Network. The two have opposing sensibilities in how right they want a character to be. Sorkin really wants you to know how right the person standing in the middle of the room is as they make their case known. But Fincher wants to bolster the arguments of both characters and let you decide who you think is right and who's wrong. And this is why his works tend to resist having that foil character come in and tell you who's actually right. We see this in Fincher's Gone Girl as well. I think this is the element that attracted him to adapt the book. Not to give away too much, but the husband and the wife in that story are morally complicated enough that the audience is left to debate amongst themselves about who was more justified about the state of Nick and Amy's marriage. Personally, I think some of the deepest and most riveting stories have no foil, and therefore allow us to watch a character get carried away with their own ambitions. No Country for Old Men, There Will Be Blood, The Godfather, Breaking Bad. This is part of what makes them all so morally and dramatically interesting, and The Social Network gets to be counted among them. Nobody, at least not successfully, tells Zuckerberg, "Stop. You're going too far. You're pushing people away." There's a scene where the Winklevosses lose a close rowing race in England. This is where they find out about how far Facebook, their idea technically, is expanding into other universities. Notice how when their colleague Divya Narendra tells them,
"I just wanted to let you know that Zuckerberg stole our website." Mark Zuckerberg? He stole our website.
the Winklevosses are also in a boat. This, I think, symbolizes how they can't outrun Mark Zuckerberg. The fact that they can outmuscle him is irrelevant because this is the 21st century where the most devastating strikes against others are wielded digitally. Not once in this movie is there any kind of physical violence, but that doesn't mean the desire is not there.
Do you want to hire an IP lawyer and sue him?
No, I want to hire the Sopranos to beat the shit out of him with a hammer.
We don't even have to do that. That's right. We can do that ourselves. I'm 6'5", 220, and there's two of me.
Instead, lawsuits are filed, bank accounts are frozen, shares are driven down, gifts are burned, laptops are smashed, but no bodily harm. And for all this, friends are driven apart, and they're driven apart over an idea that changed the world. It's not just a movie, it's a story we're still living in. Here's the last line of the first scene.
You're gonna go through life thinking that girls don't like you because you're a nerd. And I want you to know from the bottom of my heart that that won't be true. It'll be because you're an asshole.
And here's the last line of the last scene.
You're not an asshole, Mark. You're just trying so hard to be.
So who's right? Was Zuckerberg's cold ruthlessness all an act? He sits there at the end, alone, not at the Facebook party with Sean Parker, but alone, waiting for a response from Erica Albright. And as a caption tells us that he's the world's youngest billionaire, I believe we're left with a final question. Was it all worth it?